Hi, welcome to my video giving you an overview of the EV market and Rolec manufacturer of EV products. My name is Julian Duke and I am a manufacturer's sales agent covering the Midlands area. What that basically means is I work on a self-employed basis as a sales representative, but instead of being a sales representative for one company, I'm a sales representative for several. But for all intensive purposes, I am your Rolec sales representative for the Midlands area. So if you need any help and support, then I'm the man to give you that in the Midlands. The Midlands covers as far east as Lincolnshire to as far west as Shropshire and sort of everything in between. So what I'm going to go through today is I'm going to give you a little bit of background on Rolec. I'm then going to tell you a little bit about the EV market and the potential opportunity, and then move on from that. That will be a nice introduction into the OLEV grant scheme. So I'll give you an overview on how that's operating, especially with the changes from the 1st of April. And then finally, I'm going to go through the Rolec products and give you an overview of those products. So, going straight into Rolec as a company, owned by a gentleman named Kieran Allsop. Kieran's done very well. Started life as an electrical contractor, moved into caravan hookups, and then developed from caravan hookups into marina charging points. Now supplying charging points around the whole of the world. What that led into, it was a natural progression into the EV market as that grew, and so now manufacturing EV charging points as well. I think the key thing is that Rolec is based in Boston in Lincolnshire and is a UK company, and it has a very impressive facility there in Boston. So the EV markets and the opportunity for contractors, and probably not just contractors in all fairness, from the contractors there's also opportunity then for the wholesalers to distribute to the contractors, and also for us as manufacturers to supply those wholesalers. The EV market is growing rapidly, obviously with the drive towards lowering carbon emissions. The government has introduced various initiatives to help drive into that market. The first thing is that they're saying from 2030 that there no longer be diesel vehicles manufactured or diesel cars manufactured. Then on top of that, to again encourage people to move over to electric vehicles from next month, April. The new tax year will see a change in the benefit in kind, the BIK as they call it for short. And what that does is at the moment anybody that drives a company vehicle or a company car gets charged through the PAYE system, tax as a benefit in kind, and that's based on two things. It's based on what they call the P11D value, which is in effect the value of the purchase value of the vehicle, and then secondly on the carbon emissions, and the rates can equate to sort of 25, 26, 27%, and depending what vehicle you're driving, then you can be sort of paying £200, £300, £400 per month in tax for the benefit of having that as a company vehicle. So the relevance of that is from April the 5th, the new tax year. What the government is saying is that if those people driving company vehicles, when they then come to change the vehicle, if they change it to a full electric vehicle, then the benefit in kind will go from that 25, 26, 27% down to zero, nil, nothing. So basically, anybody sort of being taxed £200, £300, £400 a month will be able to save that money, and we all know what that can pay for a holiday or an increase in lifestyle. There is a caveat to that. The 0% for tax year 2021. The following year, it does actually go to 1%, and the year after 2%, but it's still negligible in compared to the current rates. But again, it's helping to drive people move over to the electric vehicles. On top of that, there's a change in the building regs happening this year. The building regs currently say that you can or the new builds should have a mode 2 charge, at least a mode 2 charging point. That's changing, and it's going to a mode 3 charging point, and it sort of generates the first question: what's mode 2 and what's mode 3? So I'll come on to that into the next slide, but and just explain that in a bit more detail. And then finally, the fourth thing that's driving the market is the grants that are available for the installation of charging points through OLEV. And OLEV stands for Office of Low Emission Vehicles. It's the government body. It's run by the DVLA on behalf of the government, and it's in effect is the grant scheme to assist the installation of getting that infrastructure into place, of having enough charging points across the country. So again, I'll come into that in more detail as we go through the slides. So I mentioned the charging mode. So the first thing to perhaps to explain is the charging mode. And currently, I said about the building regs being mode 2, and you'll see here mode 1 and mode 2 are very similar. And in effect, what it means is a mode 2 charging point is what we class as a trickle charge. It's literally a 13 amp outlet, so your standard plug outlet with an RCD. And the change in the regs is that it's then going on to mode 3, which is a fast charging point. And the difference is that there's a different type of socket entry, type 1 or type 2, which I'm going to come into as well and explain that. But mode 3 is a fast charge, and the difference is it has some brains within the charging unit. If you look at the model I've got here, then it has something like this. It has some brains in, and again, it gives that fast charge. Finally, there is mode 4. The mode 4 is what you'll see on the motorways, and you'll see big units up to sort of 150 kilowatts or thereabouts, and that's a DC charge. So what that does is it bypasses the AC-DC conversion. So on a mode 3, it goes in as AC, gets converted to DC to the battery, and then gives it that charge over a period of time, albeit in a quick format. So depending on the vehicle, can be sort of, I don't know, 5-6 hours, something like that. The difference with a mode 4 is it bypasses the AC-DC conversion and goes straight to the battery. So that's how you manage to get sort of your 80% charge on the motorways within 20 minutes or so. All of this is dependent on the vehicle, of course, but in effect that's what it does. And these come in two ways. It's you can see here it's got either a CHAdeMO or CCS, and that's just the type of plug entry that's attached to the vehicle, as well as having a type 1 or a type 2 socket, which again I'm going to come on to shortly. In fact, let's have a look at those now. So, going through the modes here, as I said, with your mode 1 and 2, you've got the UK 3-pin plug. Your type 1 and your type 2, you'll see there's a difference in the configuration. You've got 5 pins on a type 1, 7 pins on a type 2. In effect, the majority of vehicles in the UK are a type 2, and the reason for that is it's the European standard. So yeah, the non-European vehicles, so you might say, for instance, a Mitsubishi Shogun, that has a type 1, so that's a non-European standard, but more cars that are coming into the UK market now are complying with the type 2. And when you're looking at choosing which charging point to put into a property, then you would normally default to type 2. We do cables that can convert from type 2 to type 1 anyway, but your type 2 is your standard. Then on top of that, as I said, with the mode 4, you've got the CCS combo, and then you've got the CHAdeMO. And the CCS combo is again the European standard if you want. The CHAdeMO is the Asian market. And as I say, what they do is that they bypass the AC-DC conversion. And what you'll see in a vehicle, you'll see that they have two types of the charging points. They have either the type 1 and type 2 for your home charging and your standard AC to DC charging, and then they'll also underneath that have either the CCS or the CHAdeMO as an alternative to get that rapid charge when you're on the motorways and get yourself up to 80% or whatever. Now, you may say, well, crikey O'Reilly, there's a lot of cars out there, how am I going to know which charging point to put in? I'm going to give you some great information. There is a website which you can find here at ev-database.uk, well worth making a note of, and we'll just click on that and it'll give you a little insight into what that is. Okay, so we've clicked on the link, and it's ev-database.uk. Then if you can see that at the top here, ev-database.uk, and what this does is it lists every single electric vehicle available in the UK market. And if we just click on the first one, this happens to be a Volkswagen ID.3 Pure. I'm not even familiar with the vehicle myself, but it doesn't matter. But as you scroll down, you'll see it gives you every piece of information that you could possibly need about this vehicle. It tells you about a real range estimation, so it tells you how far it's likely to go, gives you the performance here, look. But more importantly, when we get to the battery and charging, it gives you the information that you require here. So what we've got here tells you that this vehicle is a Type 2, so you need your Type 2 socket outlet in effect. And it also tells you that the charging power is a 7.2 kilowatt. And based on that, it'll then give you a charging speed of 23 miles per hour, or 7 hours and 30 minutes. Then when you look at sort of getting a fast charge, you can see that it's a CCS, and it'll take 50 kilowatts of DC, and it'll give you from up to 136 miles of distance within 44 minutes. So really, really useful website for you to get that information. So if you're going to see Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and they've got their electric vehicle and they're saying, well, what charging point do we want? Then obviously you can quickly look on the website, see that they're a Type 2. Yeah, just quickly see they're a Type 2 and they're a 7.2 kilowatt. One thing I would say is that people ask me on a regular basis, what size charging point should I put in into an installation? And the answer to that question really is always put in the largest that the supply will allow. And the reason for that is in that example there, we saw that vehicle was a 7.2 kilowatt. But let's say it was a 3.6 kilowatt and you put in a 7.2 kilowatt charger. The actual vehicle will only draw what it requires. So the fact that you've got a 7.2 kilowatt charging point, it wouldn't charge any faster. It would only draw the 3.6 kilowatts that it requires. But if you reverse that, and if you have a 7.2 kilowatt vehicle like we saw in the example there, and you've only got a 3.6 kilowatt charging point, it will of course reduce the charging time. In fact, no, sorry, not reduce it, it will increase the charging time because it's reduced the power that it can draw. So always put in the largest that you can, that the supply will allow, and it'll future-proof you as well. Obviously, some of the Teslas on the market, they can do sort of 11 kilowatts, and you know, we can go beyond that as well. Okay, at this point, I would normally ask if there's any questions and do this as a sort of a live presentation. But in the video, if you are thinking that there's some questions you'd like answering, then maybe just make a note of them, and I'll give you my email address at the end of this presentation. I'll give it you now anyway. It's Julian, Julian at jdasales.co.uk. So if there's anything that's coming to mind, screw them down, and by all means drop me an email, and I'll do my best to answer them by email. And I'll give you that information again at the end of this slide, so be able to note it at the end. What we'll now do is we'll look at the grant scheme. I mentioned earlier on that one of the things helping to fuel the market, or having to drive that market and create that opportunity at the moment, is that there is a grant scheme in place. And I mentioned earlier on OLEV. So OLEV stands for the Office for Low Emission Vehicles. It's the government scheme run on behalf of the government by the DVLA, believe it or not. And in effect, it's a grant scheme, so you can get a grant for installing charging points. It actually operates in two ways. So it works on a domestic side or a domestic basis, and it works on a commercial basis. The schemes still come under OLEV, but the domestic side is the home charge scheme, and then on the commercial side, it's the workplace charge scheme, the WCS scheme. So let's talk about the domestic side first of all. So the way it works is up until recently, you could actually have up to £500 per point. And I say up until recently, it's up until the 1st of April. That has been reviewed, and the grant now available is £350 per charging point. It's based on a 75% of an installation cost, and what we mean by that is if the installation cost, say, is £1,000 for the ease of the figure, then 75% of that £1,000 is £750, but it has a cap at £350, so you get the full grant. It's not as relevant on the domestic side, but when you come to the commercial side, then it does become more relevant because it's the same criteria. It has to be 75% of the installation cost to a maximum of £350 per point, and I'll explain a little bit further when I get onto the workplace charging scheme, the WCS scheme, the commercial side. So the way that the domestic side works, Mr. and Mrs. Smith are looking to have a new charging point. The criteria that they need to meet is, number one, they have to have off-road parking, so a driveway of some description. Number two, they have to own an electric vehicle. Now, if that electric vehicle is a new vehicle, it's no problem. If it's a second-hand vehicle, then it has to be checked that that vehicle hasn't obtained or hasn't been allocated the grant previously. So if it's a second-hand vehicle and the previous owners obtained the grant, then it can't be allocated again for the grant. So just be aware of that. It's actually, the grant scheme is actually applied for by the contractor, and in both instances the contractor, when I say both instances, I mean both for the home charge scheme or the workplace scheme, the contractor has to be OLEV registered. I'll come on to how you become OLEV registered shortly, but they have to be OLEV registered. So on the domestic side, let's take Mr. and Mrs. Smith as an example. They want to have their charging point installed. They basically have off-road parking, they've got an electric vehicle, so they're good to go. And by the way, if Mr. and Mrs. Smith have got two vehicles, they can actually have two charging points under the scheme and actually apply for 2 times the £350. But what happens is the contractor, the OLEV registered contractor, will come along and obviously make sure that they're going to be able to qualify for the grant. But he then actually does the application for the grant. So let's say the installation cost is £1,000. He'll charge Mr. and Mrs. Smith £650, and then he'll put the application in to OLEV for the other £350. Now, I'm going to be perfectly honest. The paperwork is a little bit onerous, and if you don't tick all of the boxes as the OLEV registered contractor, then OLEV will chuck it back at you, and you'll have to reapply or redo the paperwork. If you do that 3 times, they won't do it a 4th time. So, a bit like sort of compliance with the NIC or your governing body. You need to make sure you're ticking all of the boxes and getting your paperwork in. The registration for the first one will take a good while, and it will probably take you anything up to 3 months, I would think, to get paid for the first one. So be aware of it. It gets easier after the first one, but just be aware that it is going to involve that time lag, and it's involving that information to be completed correctly. There is a company that's helping with all of that, a software company that I can give you details of. If you email me, then there's a company set up to make that process really, really simple. Okay, so that's the domestic side, the home charge scheme. Let's talk about the workplace charging scheme. Differs slightly to the domestic side. In many ways is much cleaner and presents a good opportunity for contractors to install and take advantage and in fact sort of the end user take advantage of it. So the way that it operates is there's still some criteria to meet. So number one, they still have to have off-road parking, obviously availability to park the amount of vehicles that they're applying for. But the scheme works in a slightly different way. So rather than the contractor applying for the grant, what would happen is, and let's assume that it's myself, let's say I'm an owner of a limited company or a business, and let's say I want to put in 20 charging points on my car park. So I've got off-road parking, I've got availability for the vehicles. The change in the grant scheme from the 1st of April was actually, it went from 500 to 350, but the good news is, where previously you could have up to 20 times £500, now you can have up to 40 times 350, so it gives you a grant possibility of up to £14,000. So going back to what I was saying, so I'm the owner of the business, shall we say. I've got car parking opportunity for 20 vehicles and I want to put 20 electric charging points. It works on the same basis that it's still 75% of the installation cost, maximum of £350 per point. Now what I mean by a point is if we look at this wall pod here, we can see it's got one outlet or one point. Now some of the pedestals that we do, in fact some of the wall units we do, have twin points or 2 points. So they would actually qualify for 2 times the grants or 2 times 350, but it's based on that 75% of the installation cost. And let me try and give you an example of that. So let's say I want to put in 20 points and the OLEV contractor's come along and he's given me a price of £10,000 for 20 single points. So 75% of £10,000 is £7,500. Divided by 20 points is 375 per point. So because it's capped at 350, it would qualify for 350 per point. But let's take a different scenario where we're putting in, say, a pedestal unit that has 2 outlets on it. So the installation cost is going to be lower. And for this purpose, let's say that the installation cost is going to be £5,000, still for 20 points, but £5,000. So 75% of the £5,000, of course, is 3,750. If we then do the same maths and divide the 3,750 by the 20 points, it's actually only £187.50 per point. So in that instance, you'd get the grant of the 3,750. But what is better for the contractor is the way that it operates. So as the owner of the business, I've asked the OLEV contractor to come along. Again, I mentioned that they have to be OLEV registered, which we're going to come on to how you become that. So I've asked the OLEV contractor to come along. He's given me, as the business owner, a quotation, so I understand the cost. If we go back to that example of it, say £10,000, I then apply to OLEV for the grant. And once the grant's been approved by OLEV, what they then do is send me a voucher. So I've now got a voucher for the value of the grant, so let's say £7,500. I then invite the contractor to come back. The voucher I've got will last for 4 months, or is valid for 4 months, so I invite the contractor to come back. He then does the installation, and what I do is I pay the contractor partly in normal payments basis, so electronically or cheque or whatever, and partly with this voucher. Now, because the contractor is OLEV registered and because the grant has already been pre-approved, the contractor still has to give some supporting information, but what he does is he gets the voucher and he redeems the voucher from OLEV. And because, as I said, it's already been all approved, the process is much quicker, much cleaner, and he'll get paid within 30 days. So the commercial side creates a good opportunity and a much cleaner opportunity, in my opinion, than the domestic side. But obviously, wherever you want to position yourself, you've got opportunities on the grant scheme. So the next question, I suppose, once you've understood the grant scheme, is what do you need to do to become an OLEV registered installer? And to do that, you need 4 things. So I'll put them on the screen here. So the first thing is that you need to have a governing body. So NIC, NAPIT, Stroma, whoever that might be, then you need to have them as your governing body. Number 2, and you'll already have this because of number 1 anyway, you need to have public liability in place. You may just need to check the level if you want to do the commercial work, just to make sure you've got enough. But in a nutshell, the chances are you'll have that. So that's the 2 things. Thirdly, you then need to receive EV training. And I'm working, and Rolec as a company are working with wholesalers up and down the country, certainly in the Midlands, where we're putting on training with a third-party training company to give the EV training that's required. That can either be a one-day awareness course, which gives you a certificate, or alternatively, it can be a 2-day City and Guilds course that will give you a qualification. Either is acceptable within the OLEV scheme, and sort of tick that 3rd box for you. The final thing that you'll then need is you'll need an accreditation from an EV manufacturer. So somebody like ourselves, Rolec. It doesn't have to be us, it can be one of the other manufacturers, as long as their products are on the OLEV scheme and approved, then it could be one of the others. Obviously from our point of view, we'd like you to become registered to install our products, but you're going to need to be accredited by someone to tick that 4th box. Okay, so that then I suppose leads onto the question of what do you need to do to become a Rolec registered installer, and the criteria of that is very, very similar to that of OLEV. So the first thing is that you need to have a governing body, NIC or NAPIT or whatever. Secondly, you need to have that liability insurance, so tick tick. Thirdly, you then need to have had some training in conjunction with Rolec. So we have accredited training companies on our books that we approve, and they will centre around the Rolec product. And somebody like myself in the Midlands will come along and give you very much a similar presentation to what I'm doing now, to give you an overview on the products as well. And then the training company will go into the detail of what you require as far as the earthing arrangement is concerned as well, which I know is key to everybody. And remember, in the first amendment of the 18th edition, things have changed. So where previously you had to put a nerve spike in, now you've got an option to not only put a nerve spike in, you can also put in a unicorn device. And again, I can give you information for manufacturers of that. Drop me an email. My email will be at the end of the presentation again, and I can send you their details, and you'll be able to buy that through your local electrical wholesaler. So going back to the point of becoming Rolec registered or accredited, so you need to receive that training in conjunction with Rolec. And then finally, what you need to do is to purchase our test equipment. And what's important about that is us knowing that you're going to leave that installation fully tested with an electric vehicle or a simulation of an electric vehicle, and that's what the charge check, which is our test equipment, does. But that sort of completes the criteria to become Rolec accredited. Now, very importantly, remember, even when you're accredited with a manufacturer, whether that's with Rolec or whether that's with one of the alternates, you can only install under the OLEV grant scheme the products that are approved by OLEV for that manufacturer. So what I'm saying by that is even once you've become Rolec accredited and you become OLEV accredited, you need to understand which products are approved for the OLEV scheme. You'll get a certificate anyway from ourselves, and we list every single product that sort of qualifies for the grant scheme. So it's important that you just remember that. Okay, and that leads us into the Rolec range of products. And ideally, if you've got one of our catalogues, that would be really useful. If you haven't, then obviously you can get this from your local wholesaler, or again, email me and we'll get one posted out to you. Alternatively, the products are shown on the website, but I'll refer to this a little bit as we go along, just as I'm talking about the various options. But in simple terms, the way to think about it is that you've either got wall mounted products or you've got pedestal mounted products, and not to overcomplicate the product. The variations are the variations, and obviously the earthing arrangement needs to be clear, and I'd always recommend you sort of talk to your governing body, so the NIC or whoever, just to take advice on that. Alternatively, there's a good contact at Rolec, who I'm sure he'll appreciate me giving you his details out, but that's a gentleman named Gary Frost. And again, at the end, what I'll do is I'll give you his email address, so that if you have got installation sort of queries, then he'll be able to answer those, because he's far more technical than I am. But going back to the basics, yeah. So if you think about the sites that you're looking to provide charging points for, the first thing that you need to think about is, okay, where am I going to site them? Am I going to site them on the wall, or is it going to be a pedestal unit? And once you've got that sort of mindset, then you can start to narrow the options of which product you're going to take. So let's start with the wall range products. And I guess the first question is it a domestic installation, or is it a commercial installation? Is it under the OLEV scheme, or is it just a straight sort of install? The first thing probably to point out is that under the OLEV scheme on domestic installs, it has to be a smart unit. So what that means is it needs to be able to be communicated with. And so the only product in that range is this product here I'm showing on the screen, but also that I'm showing down here. And this is the smart unit that we offer. So the various options with that smart range is, and I'm going to take it from the book because it's easier for me to remember. You've got a 3.6 or a 7.2 kilowatt. So remember what I said earlier on about choosing that. Always pick the biggest one that your supply will allow, because it sort of future-proofs you a little bit. The vehicle will only draw what it needs anyway. So if it's a 3.6 vehicle, 7.2 kilowatt charging point, no problem, it'll only draw the 3.6. But obviously the other way around, then it'll slow the charge down. So yeah, go for the largest one you can. And the options that we're showing here is that is a Type 2 socket. I told you what the Type 2, that's the European standard for the outlet. Majority of vehicles in the UK are Type 2, but there are still some Type 1s. Check on the website that I gave you the details for, ev-database.uk. And then it has GPRS connectivity. So what we mean by that is in effect, it has a SIM card. So the SIM card sits inside the unit. It's a Vodafone SIM card. It's actually included in the price of our product for 3 years. The alternative to that is we then offer options. Let's say somewhere where I live, I haven't got a very good signal. So we offer units that can be Wi-Fi connected wirelessly, and it can be communicated with. Yes, it's all controlled via an app, but in effect, it's a smart unit, which means it can be communicated with. And the purpose, I guess, for OLEV is so that they can monitor the usage, obviously, for the requirements of the grid and the likes of that. So 3.6 or 7.2, GPRS or a Wi-Fi option. What it can also do is you can have a tethered unit option. Tethered unit is basically where the cable's connected. I'll cover it in the slide shortly anyway, but it's where the cable is connected to the charging point, and then you have the plug already on the end of the cable and connected into the charging point. The downside of that, I suppose, is that you need to make sure you've got the right plug on the end for the specific vehicle, whereas if you've got sort of just the non-tethered unit, you could always have an adapting lead type 2 to type 1 if the vehicle is a type 1, so you've got a little bit more flexibility if it's not tethered. But very popular, and again they're available in 3.6 or 7.2s, type 1 or type 2s, and in effect that's the smart range. One thing to point out is very importantly, the RCBO is not fitted actually in the unit. It can't physically fit in because of the communication devices in the smart unit, but it does come in the packaging box, and it comes with its own enclosure. So just bear that in mind when you're looking at the price of the product. You haven't got to purchase an additional RCBO and enclosure. It comes within the box, so yeah, it tells you up here. It's also got the built-in DC sensitive fall protection device. That's worth mentioning as well, because sometimes you see on websites where they don't include that in the price, and people then sort of start to get confused on the pricing level. So that's all included in the box. When you start to look at the rest of the wall pod range, we start with the Mode 2 unit. Looks similar to the one I'm showing you here, but rather than having the Type 2 outlet, if you look on the screen, I don't know whether you can see there, but it's just basically a 13 amp outlet with an RCD. And that's available, still available. It's sort of an entry level, and it can actually be upgraded to a Mode 3 charging point for the future, so just bear that in mind as well. When we talk about the Mode 3, so yeah, we're talking about this wall pod here. I'll take it off the display just so I can show you a little bit better. He says, there you go. So that's the standard wall pod Mode 3. It's available in a 3.6 or a 7.2 type 2 or type 1 outlet. It's an ABS product, obviously still hard wearing. This one's just a dummy unit, but it shows the type 2 outlet in there. And yeah, that's the standard wall pod. Very, very popular unit. And I'll just quickly run through the options on that. So you've got a 3.6 or 7.2 type 2. You've then got a 3.6 or a 7.2 complete with hatch lock. Hatch lock's got like a little pin so that when you've got the plug in, it can't be pulled out when it's charging. So that's what that is. The unit is also very importantly available in 3-phase. So it's an 11 kilowatt or a 22 kilowatt. So if there's 3-phase available, that's also an option on the standard wall pod. Okay, you then have the options very similarly with the tethered units. So the tethered, as I said before, it basically has the lead already attached on the unit with a plug on the end. It's shown in here where it's just been held in this outlet. The outlet isn't live or energized, it's the plug that's energized. All that is just somewhere for it to support when it's not in use. And that again has the same options. It's available in 3.6 or 7.2, type 1 or type 2, and it's also available in 3-phase 11 or 22 kilowatt. Yeah, and that is the standard wall pod range. In addition to that, what you can also add is a key switch. So if you're worried about somebody coming along and helping themselves to some free charging, then you add the key. We call it an EVAD 3000, and all that does is it needs the key to energise the socket. And obviously, once you've taken the key out and it's unenergised, so anybody coming along and thinking that they can get a free charge, they're going to be disappointed. that pretty much completes the standard wall range, being made of an ABS product. So the next range is still wall, but it's the security charge range. And the only difference really with the security charge range to the standard wall pods is that they're made of a galvanised steel and powder coated, so it's a little bit more robust. And probably a little bit more commercial, although some people might still want to use it on a domestic basis. The other key difference as well, you'll see on the screen here, is not only is it available with a single outlet, it's also available as a twin outlet, whereas the ABS product isn't available as a twin. So I'll just run through the options on that. So you've got a 3.6 or a 7.2 type 2 outlet, single outlet. You've then got the twin option, so 2 times 3.6 or 2 times 7.2. And just while we're talking about that, yes, the answer to a question I get asked a lot, if you've got a twin 3.6, what's the size of the supply? Well, the size of the supply is 2 times 3.6, which is 7.2 kilowatts, 32 amps. So likewise, if you've got the 2 times 7.2 or 2 times 32 amp, then yes, 64 amps is the requirement of the supply. On top of that, it's also available in 3-phase, so you've got single 11 kilowatt, single 22 kilowatt, or twin 11 kilowatt and twin 22 kilowatt. And in a nutshell, that's it really. I mean, it's does the same job as the standard wall pod. Yes, it has the option of a twin outlet. It's available in single phase and 3-phase, the same as the standard wall pod. Main difference is this is an ABS product and this is a galvanised steel, so it's more robust. Okay. To complete the range of the wall range, we then do a 25 kilowatt rapid charger DC unit. Lots of Tesla owners tend to like this because obviously they're getting a really good quick charging point and the vehicle's capable of doing it. But yeah, it is popular and it's also available so that it can be mounted on the wall, or actually we do a stand that you can put it on as well. Yeah, so that in effect completes the wall range. And just to recap, so you're going to site, the key things are, is it OLEV registered? Well, if it's OLEV registered, installed on a domestic basis, then it has to be this unit, the charge unit. That was on the 1st of July last year, so it has to be a smart unit, okay? If it's not on the OLEV scheme, then yeah, you'd normally go for the standard wall pod, whichever size that you want, so obviously an ABS product. Or alternatively, you'd go back to the security charge, which is the more robust product. And those are, other than the rapid charger, those are really the main choices for your wall mounting. So going on to the pedestal mounting. Okay, the pedestal mounting again, it's not that complicated. When you first perhaps have a look in the catalogue or looking online, you're thinking, wow, there's so many of these products, I don't know which one to choose. But when you actually get to understand it, it's not that complicated. The first thing to do is to remember that we do 3 ranges. So we do the basic charge, we do the quantum, and we do the auto charge. The only difference in these products really is the way that they look and the robustness. Okay, they all do the same job. They've all pretty much got the same options on them. So let me just talk you through the basic charge, and if you had a catalogue, I'd be telling you to go to page 14 at the moment, but forgive me, I'll go through it for you anyway. So the basic charge, it's available. I'm showing you here. You can see it as a twin outlet. It has got light on it. It's got an opal diffuser. It is what it says. It says it's the basic charge. It's the basic unit, but we sell a lot of these units. So it's available in a 3.6 or a 7.2 kilowatt single outlet. Alternatively, you can have a twin 3.6 and a twin 7.2. And then beyond that, if you want to go to 3-phase, you can have a single 11 kilowatt, single 22, or a twin 11 and a twin 22 kilowatt. And those are your choices. If you want something that perhaps is then a little bit more at market, aesthetically looks a little bit nicer, it's got some nice LED lights, The charging outlets are actually on the side of this unit rather than the front, but this looks particularly good branded up, which I'll tell you about as well, that we can do for you. But again, the options on the Quantum, this is the Quantum, it's 3.6 or 7.2 in a singles, or you can have a twin 3.6, a twin 7.2, or you go to 3-phase, and then you can have a single 11 kilowatt outlet, a single 22 kilowatt outlet, or you go twin 11, twin 22. So exactly the same as the basic charge, looks a little bit sexier, if you can call charging point sexy, that is. Got some nice LED lights, and it looks really good when it's branded up, and a little bit more robust. Finally, if you then want to go more robust again, what you then say is okay, I'm going from a GPRS type of material to a galvanised steel product, and that's the auto charge. It looks differently to the other two. In fact, they all look different to each other, but don't let that confuse you. It does exactly the same job. And if you look at the options on the auto charge, exactly the same: 3.6 or 7.2 single outlets, twin 3.6, twin 7.2, or you go to 3-phase, 11 kilowatt, 22 kilowatt single outlets, or twin 11, twin 22s. And as I said, the only difference is it's a galvanised steel powder coating. It's more robust. Yeah, it's really, you're going to the job, you're looking at the site, and you're basically saying, well, do I want this one, the basic charge that looks like this, or something a little bit more upmarket, which is the Quantum, or more robust again, maybe the auto charge, which is the galvanised steel product. Once you've done that, it's then pick the unit you want. You've sort of specified what product you need. So just make sure when you're purchasing these, you order the mounting base. It is a different mounting base for each one, so just be aware of that, but make sure you order it when you're installing them. Make life simple. Leads, we spoke about earlier on whether to go for a tethered option or a non-tethered option, and I think I suggested that, me personally, I'd probably go for a non-tethered, because you can, if you do have a Type 1 vehicle and you've got a Type 2 outlet, then you can always get a lead from Type 2 to Type 1, which we supply in various sizes and lengths and forms and that kind of stuff. So yeah, range of leads for you. And that's sort of the family of products that we're showing there, and what we're also showing is how we can actually brand these products for you. Rolec in particular are very, very good on the marketing side. So you as a contractor or an installer, or even as a wholesaler selling to the contractor, if you want to help sell any of the products and you'd like to see whichever product it might be in the particular colours of a company with their logo on, we can mock that up on a PDF for you and give it to you and say this is what it'll look like, and then it helps on the presentation to your customer to help you gain the sale. And that's sort of giving you some examples. Some more examples are here. This one's here for the Royal Mail. Don't know how many letters actually are attempted to be posted in the auto charge here, but anyway, yeah, that's one just showing they're branded up for the Royal Mail. If you're into football, then you've got Leicester City there. It's not my team, but yeah, it demonstrates what we can do in the way of the branding. And then even from your own point of view, if you want to sort of promote your own business, then why not have a mock-up from us? We do it free of charge for you, no problem. We'll put your logo onto this family of products here in any colour that you want, and you can use that as a PDF and say, look, this is what I can offer, with this kind of stuff. And you may decide that you want to do your installs with your own branding. So that's all available for you. And there you are. There you have the range of products that we're offering there, just showing it as a collective. And there you have it. So it gives you a sort of an overview of the products. Obviously available from your local electrical wholesaler who you're using. They've all pretty much got access to the product, so please ask them for a price. My details, I promised you. So yeah, my name is Julian Duke, just to remind you if you didn't know that. My email address there again is julian@jdasales.co.uk. And as I said at the start, I'm the representative for Rolec for the Midlands. If I can help you, support you in any way, I'll do my best. Drop me an email and I'll answer all of those questions that you may have. I hope you've enjoyed the presentation. Hope it didn't bore you too much. I'm going to be doing several of these for various products, so look out on my YouTube channel, something that I'm going to start to promote. So yeah, look forward to talking to you again, and yeah, hope it was okay for you. Thanks a lot.